The Saracens in Provence. The Saracens are often mentioned in the history of Provence. Their passages and invasions are frequently used as chronological markers. They destroyed many villages, and people spoke of before the Saracens and after the Saracens, much like we say before Christ and after Christ, to mark the transition from one era to another. The word Saracen, from the Latin Saracenus, meaning nomad, originally referred to Bedouin tribes who lived between the Tigris and the Euphrates and who attacked caravans. Following the Quran, they set out to Islamize the world. They first conquered Syria, Iran, Egypt, North Africa, and from the 8th century onward, Spain. All these conquered peoples came to be called Saracens in the medieval language. In modern language, we more commonly say Arabs.
Saracens are Arabs. In 714, they crossed the Pyrenees and entered France. Their goal was not looting, but conquest. If they didn't meet much resistance, they simply took over churches and turned them into mosques. Of course, there was sometimes violence and massacres, but it was not systematic. It was more of a religious war than an act of destruction. Then the Christians began to fight back. At Poitiers in 732, Charles Martel pushed the Saracens back. They then changed tactics and turned into raiders. They launched raids to plunder and bring back spoils. These were the razzias, soon joined by maritime expeditions. Our region of Provence did not suffer much from these attacks. It was mainly the large cities that were targeted because of their wealth. Our poorer region was largely spared.
Arriving by sea in 888, a boat of Saracens from Spain, diverted by bad weather, was shipwrecked in the Gulf of Saint-Tropez. There were only about 20 of them at first. From the heights of the Moors Mountains, they saw a land with no real military organization, no political unity, a vulnerable prey within reach. That is why they settled in Fraxinet, modern-day Garde-Freinet in the Var region. Reinforcements soon arrived from Spain and North Africa. Not long after, Fraxinet had become an impregnable fortress.
Sheltered behind their fortifications, the Saracens organized razzias, raids throughout Provence, venturing ever farther in search of plunder, and growing in number as the spoils were easy to obtain. They eventually managed to control the Alpine passes. By then, it was no longer about conquest or Islamization. It was about looting, massacres, and destruction. Travelers caught at the mountain passes were held for ransom and had to pay to continue their journey. Sometimes, local lords even asked the Saracens for help in settling their disputes. In this way, they acted as mercenaries, but they had no qualms about turning on their former employers at the first opportunity. Several generations suffered from their raids. Nothing and no one seemed capable of driving them out of our land. One event, however, would favor the unification of forces and the organization of a proper defense. The kidnapping of Mayeul, Saint Mayeul, whom legend says was born in Valensole, in today's Alpes de Haute-Provence, where he is the patron saint. Mayeul was held in the highest esteem by his contemporaries. His fame was widespread throughout Christendom. It was said that he had refused the papal tiara out of humility. He was one of the early abbots of Cluny. Kings and emperors would consult him before making important decisions. His wisdom and holiness were legendary.
Now, while returning from Rome, most likely from a pilgrimage, Mayeul was captured by the Saracens. Historians do not all agree on which Alpine pass he was taken. Some say it was the Great St. Bernard Pass. Others claim it was Mont Genève. In any case, once the Saracens realized the importance of their captive, they demanded an enormous ransom for the holy man, 1,000 pounds of silver. The Abbey of Cluny was wealthy, and a sum was paid. Mayeul and his companions were then allowed to continue their journey. But the outrage throughout the Christian Empire was immense. That Mayeul, Saint Mayeul, could be abducted by infidels right in the heart of Christendom. was something utterly unacceptable.
Taking advantage of this movement and growing sense of revolt, William, son of Count Bazan of Arles, along with his brother Raubau, Vincentius, Baron of Castellane, and Bevans from the Gibron Valley, raised an army and attacked the Saracens. Under these four captains, all of Provence took up arms. Raubau seized Fraxinet, and William liberated the Alpine passes. The abduction of Mayeul had galvanized the will to resist. The religious war had changed sides, and so had victory. Mayeul was captured in 972. By 974, William and his companions had driven the Saracens out of Provence. He earned the title William the Liberator. The German emperor granted him investiture and named him Count of Provence. Through him, in the year 974, the county of Provence, as we know it today, excluding the bishoprics of Gap and Embrun in the Hautes Alps, was established.
Later, the shores of Provence would still suffer occasional Saracen raids, but their domination was over. At last, pacified and under the leadership of its new count, Provence was able to organize itself and find unity for the first time in its history.